It's raining out.
Yay.
Hi, thanks so much for joining us a little bit early this Wednesday. We are busy, Amber and I, and so we are just going to jump on a little before your lunch hour, but we hope you'll still tune in. And if not, watch during your lunch. I'm Annie Meehan with AM Speaking and Consulting, and this is H3 TV, where we spread hope, health, and happiness to the world in a time when we could all use a little more hope, a little more happiness, and a little bit healthier lifestyle. Today, I have my guest Amber with us, and I'm so excited for you to meet her and hear a little bit about how she stays hopeful when things are challenging and when they're wonderful. Amber, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Wow, that's such a big question. We only have a short amount of time. Well, I'll just say that personally, I'm a mom to all adult kids. My little Cavapoo puppy runs my life, and I'm a very intentional friend. And I'm one of 6 kids. I've got a great family. I talk to them every day. So that's personal. Amber, bougie. I like food, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Professional Amber, I am known for branding, but really what I like to do is I like to help either restore or help people identify their personal power. So we do that by defining and positioning their value so that they can use their natural gifts that maybe they don't even realize are great gifts because it's like, well, this is just what I do, to help them use those in service to others, because I believe that when you are in service to others, you get to have hope and happiness and health, and you get to live a joyful life because you have purpose and intention.
I love that. I love that. Great. Well, thanks so much for being with us. So, I'm looking for specifically what are 3 to 5 things that you do personally to stay hopeful or that you teach other people? Because sometimes right now, people don't feel very hopeful. So, what can you tell us?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I teach all of my academy students or my membership members is to keep an Attagirl or an Attaboy file. Because what do we do? I mean, just think about when you have a bad experience at wherever, you want to like blast on social media. But if you have an experience that was good, I mean, maybe you put it on social media, but you're like, wow, that was really cool, and you go on about your life. And we tend to do the same thing to ourselves, right? So if we do something bad, we amplify it and we beat ourselves up and we overthink, why did we do that? And I should have done it this way. But we don't celebrate when we win, and you have to keep an even scoreboard. So I would just recommend, it could be like a folder in your inbox. So every time you get like a thank you email or a good job email or something, put that in your Attagirl or Attaboy file in your inbox. Keep one in your Google Drive. Keep one on your phone. Keep a physical one. I put like cards and things like that, and that. And then when you're having one of those days where you're feeling kind of wonky or maybe less than, you pull those out and you remind yourself who you really are and what you really do in the world. That's one. Um, Another one is I like to create life statements. So I do vision boards. I do all the things because I'm me. But the life statement is, it's a statement that I wrote, and I encourage my people to write, that speaks about where you want your life to be as if it is in today. So it's usually, or if I want something, I usually will say it like, I'm so grateful that I'm going to get to see Annie in the next 6 months. I'm so grateful that we have such a connection that we're going to be able to figure that out despite our crazy busy lives. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I do things. And so when you do that for your life and you start thinking about where it's going and not like what's keeping you from it, that immediately brings up hope. And I would say the third thing is, when the fit hits the shan, believe and tell yourself, no matter what, that it is happening for you and it's not happening to you. So Annie, you and I have both been through a lot.
Yes.
And isn't it safe to say that the things that seemed so terrible at the time, even if there's no way of making that particular instance better or okay, can you not say that because this thing happened, then this door opened or this path became clear, and now I'm here, and there's no way that I could have figured out how to make my life that groovy. Like, I had no idea that that was even an option. But
Yeah.
this thing happened and it forced me out of whatever situation this is. And so when bad things happen, or when things happen that I have no choice in, like, they're like, it's not within my agency. I didn't, there was nothing I could do to make it different. Then I just have to assume Okay, well, that's because it needed to happen because I was unwilling to do whatever I needed to do to get to where I'm going. So it happened for me.
Yeah, I love all of those, Amber. Your love note, your add a girl. I love that. When I met my husband, I had a big box of love notes. Now, some of
Oh,
those love notes were like, I worked at Target when I was 14 at a snack bar, and this guy who was handicapped or special needs came in always, and he wrote me a note like, "You're the nicest person." And I got rid of him when we bought our house 27 years ago. And I'm like, I'm starting that box again. Thank you for that reminder, because I do get love notes, and I tell people I do comment cards when I speak. I don't tell everyone this, but I'm going to tell you, they're my secret love notes. Like, I
oh,
just get those and I
sure.
put them up on the wall. Like, hey, people like me. Hey, when I'm having a bad day. So I love that. I love your life statements. So a lot of people talk about affirmation cards. I call
Mhm.
them belief cards. Believe it
Mhm.
before it happens, and
Yes.
then believe it into being. You know, I have audience of 10,000. I'm sought after. Amber's my new best friend. We're hanging out, having fun. We're on the beach and working, making money. No,
That's right.
whatever it is, I think that great stuff. I love that you call it life statements, because I think then it's about journey too. It's not about even getting it in this moment. It's about our whole life. So I really love that message. So great. And then also that is happening for you. And one thing, whenever I speak, I think about the hard things we've gone through in life have taught me, not only have catapulted me to become who I am, but have taught me how to be compassionate and kind,
Oh, so
taught me to
much.
wonder about people's stories instead of judge. And I think it just, when we look back and think for us, not to us, that I love that. I just think it's really great and important. So I'm going to keep us moving because I know we're both busy, but okay, when life is hard or challenging, what do you do to remember to be hopeful? So if you kind of are too busy to do those three things we just talked about,
Huh.
how do you remember?
So when life is okay, well, so I'm all about building supportive environments, and so that can be spiritual environments, mental environments, physical environments. It could be your physical fitness as an environment. It could be a people environment. People don't think about people as environments, but you're building those people. That's creating an environment. So I've actually had quite a challenging year, as you know, and so I've doubled down on making sure that I am mentally taking care of myself. So that means, maybe you go to therapy or you double down on your meditation. You spend quiet time with yourself where you can hear your own thoughts, you journal, whatever that is. I surround myself only with people who are edifying, only people where it's a two-way street, only the people I'm excited to see. And when I leave them, my energy increases, it doesn't decrease, only because you cannot have energy vampires when you're in the muck. You cannot. And so, and then exercise, that's huge for me. I joke that I hit the gym so I won't hit you. Um,
Stress release, right?
that's right. And the endorphins that you create, like if you're already going through a hard time, that is not the time to start eating crap and drinking too much, because now you're creating an environment in your body that's already going to be lethargic, and you're going to feel puffy and gross and yuck. So it's like, well, if this is the pile of poo that's going in my life, what can I get right over here that's within my control? So I'm gonna eat right. I'm gonna exercise. I'm gonna meditate or do yoga. I'm gonna, increase my prayer life or journal. I'm gonna surround myself with friends so that I'm not ignoring that this is happening over here. I'm just gonna try to plant that, and like I want to make sure that I turn that pile of poo into fertilizer for the rest of my life.
I love that. And Amber, I'm going to take three words out of that I really want our listeners to think about. Amber's super intentional. She's super protective, and she has boundaries.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think sometimes people are afraid of those three things, but being intentional, being protective around our time, around our space, around what we do with our body, and about having boundaries. Those are excellent, excellent advice. Thank you. I love
Yeah.
that.
And I'm a recovering codependent. So I'm not saying like, oh, I've had this right all my life. No, like it is so hard for me to not be like, oh, well, I'm perfect. So let me just go fix your life for you, even though you don't want to fix it. Like how arrogant of me to be like, oh, let me just solve all your problems for you. And then I'll feel better about myself that I fixed all your problems. Like you have to have boundaries, because people will gobble up your time, your energy, your attention, everything. And you know what? You're going to lose some people when you put some boundaries out there. You are, and I have, and I'm fine with that because my boundaries are now in place. And it's about where God's spirit, the universe, whatever you want to say it, is taking my life, and not being dragged in the direction of somebody else's unintentional life.
Yeah, I love that. I'm all about everything you're saying. I agree 100%. So does hope just happen for you? And I also love that you said we're a work in progress, right? Like neither of us are there. We're working on this every day, but we're intentional about working on it, about paying
Yeah.
attention. But does hope just happen, or is it a choice, or is it by chance or circumstance? How do you stay hopeful?
I think it's a choice. And so I go back to for those who don't, most of your people I'm sure don't know me. I got knocked up at 16. So talk about a really dark season. I was on my own. I was handling everything on my own. I was financially on my own. It was really, really dark, hard times. And so the one thing I would never lose, because I knew if I lost that, I was in serious trouble, was hope. And so that isn't something it just a fairy comes and gives it to you. It's something you have to generate from the inside. And so my hope looks very, very revolved around gratitude. So I am grateful that I have 4 jobs to work so that my car will not get repossessed. I am grateful that while I don't get to spend time with my daughter like I want to, I at least have a safe place for her to go when I work. I'm grateful that these are opportunities that I have that the rest of the world doesn't even necessarily have. And I know that if I just keep going, one day that freight train coming at me is actually going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. Until then, I'm just going to keep running. And it was baby steps. It was every single day, just like, I'm going to get through this day, or I do my little handwritten budget. And then there was always like the red at the bottom, it was like, here's all the money I'm making. Here's everything that's due this week. Oh crap. How's that going to work? I guess I'll pick up another shift at the Applebee's. Like, I don't know. I'll ask if I could skip this week's daycare and pay twice next week. Like, those are the choices you make at 19 years old with a, 2.5-year-old. But at the end of that stressful moment of like, I'm screwed, it was like, but it's not always going to be this way, because you're smart and you work hard and you love your kid and God's never going to let you down. So just keep going. You have to tell yourself.
I love that. I love also the light at the end of the tunnel. For me, hope's a lot about there is still light. It might feel dark. I might feel dark, but there is a light. And I've read a lot about hope and about, how long you can go a week without food. You can go 3 days without water, but to go an hour without hope just steals everything. And so when we remember that even though we've gone through hard stuff, we've come out the other end and there is hope and things do get better. And even when we feel overwhelmed, there's great people out there that want to support us and support you in your journey. And so I love that. What's the difference
there's
between
one
hopeful?
thing I want to add to that, if
Okay.
I can. So there's so many studies where a person was misdiagnosed with cancer and they were told you have 30 days to live, and then they died in that 30-day time frame, and they managed all of their things and they told everybody goodbye, and then they died, and then upon the autopsy they did not even have cancer. That is the power of hope. That is the wickedness of not having hope.
Isn't that amazing? And how powerful the mind is, right? Like if we tell ourselves it'll never get better, everything's horrible, and we know people are going through that, so we have no judgment, but we're just saying, if you can tell yourself it will get better, what's one small thing I can do today to help it get better? I think it makes a difference, but that's a great example. So what's the difference between being hopeful and being optimistic to you? What do you think the difference is?
I think optimistic is assuming the best, assuming that things are going to work out, or assuming that somebody is who you want them to be, not necessarily who they are. And I think optimism can be both a tool and sometimes when you're overly optimistic, confront the brutal facts, but never lose faith. That's the Stockdale paradox that Jim Rohn speaks about in Good to Great. It's okay to be hopeful and say, we know things are going to get better. But if you're overly optimistic, I think you could get yourself in trouble, because again, like I wasn't like, oh, well, just the fairy's going to come and pay all my bills. I was like, and then minus the 2 and I'm $200 short. That's not optimistic. That's real, but the hope is still there. So I think they're different. I'm an optimistic person. I assume that the best is going to be, but sometimes you have to be also very real about a situation.
Yeah, I like that. I think I'm an optimist, and sometimes it does. It just sets me up to be disappointed, right? Because it's always going to work out and everything's going to be happily ever after. And yet the reality in me knows that's not always true. And I think we have to at least visit being realistic and stay hopeful for the best, but also, what do they say? Prepare yourself for the best, or
hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yeah, exactly.
My brother and I have a saying where we'll say, well, I'm just going to be cautiously pessimistic about it.
So personally, you're beautiful. You're a powerhouse. People see you as so successful. You know, you're doing the right stuff. You're setting those boundaries. You're taking care of yourself. So what is something that slips into Amber's life, who other people probably look at and think, oh my gosh, Amber's got it all together. And we know we don't. We know we're always a work in progress, right? But people probably see that because they have their own stories about you and about themselves. So what is something that does steal hope from you? Like when you're feeling good and moving forward, what are the things that kind of steal that hope, just to let people know, you know, we're not in this, none of us are alone in our own story of struggle.
I joke about this and I have a video that I'm going to put out about it, but you know, that book, Girl Wash Your Face.
Yes.
I'm like, you do not need, I've never, everybody's like, have you read Girl Wash Your Face? I'm like, I have a 9-step skincare system I do twice a day. And then on Wednesdays, I use this tool. And then on Sundays, I do this mask. And like, I don't need to be told to wash my face. I'm like not enough person. And that was actually go to my Instagram, because my post today is, if I'm too much, then go find less. And so that's something I have to tell myself, because I am a lot. Annie, you know me, I'm a very complicated person. I like to have emotional intimacy in my relationships with friends. I'm not a fake person. What you see is what you get. Like, I don't do the schmoozy kissy and then talk behind your back thing. Like, those friends are all gone now. And so there is, and even living in a small town, and Annie, you know, like you and I have to do this. Like, we have to post on social media. The speakers bureaus tell us, you're not posting enough about your personal life. You need to post more. And advertisers won't advertise with us unless we're all out there. And then you live in your community, and then your community is like, well, Amber thinks she's something. All she does is post her life. She just must want attention. And it's like, no, I want to live my life, but apparently it's a Kardashian society we live in now. And to be a consultant and a speaker, you have to also be a Kardashian. So here's where we are. And that rub, it gets to me sometimes, because I'm just me. I get enough attention. I don't need to hoard attention. You know what I mean?
Totally.
I'm a big personality like you are.
Yes.
We don't need to beg for it. It comes all on its own. So you're right. People tell stories about what they need to tell a story about what they need to believe about you so that it can make sense to them. Yeah. And so we, and all speakers and anybody who's putting themselves out there, marketing, sales, whatever, we all need to remember that their stories that they tell themselves, that's their experience backed by their life experience, their wounding, their hangups, their personality. And you just got to go out there and do you. I say it all the time, but sometimes I have to take my own cookies.
100%. I always think like what I speak about, I'm trying to teach, but I love that you told that. So feel free when we share this, add those links to your videos about this or to your Instagram or whatever. But I've had many people say, you're too much, you're a lot, you calm down. You got too much energy. You're too happy. And for a while I would try to shrink. And then I read this really a beautiful poem, and it was about, you know, if people tell you you're too much or you're too big, they're not your people. It's not that you're too much. You are who you're meant to be. And some people will be in your life and some people will go, and it's okay. Like, and also every time I feel that, I'm moving to a next level.
That's right.
I'm getting broader, and God's saying, you know what, I'm going to use you to
expand your territory.
You know, might not be your best friend, but they need you. And I'm going to use you as a vessel to speak to them. So I love what you're saying. And I think part of it is learning to like yourself. You know, I tell audiences, I used to want them to like me so much and like, please like me. And now I'm like, I don't care. It's not. And they're like, what? And I'm like, well, here's the reality. Whether you like me or not, I'm walking out of this room, and it's unlikely we're going to see each other again face to face for a while, if ever. You might see me on social media, but I want you to like you more. It's not about me. And I have learned to like myself, and I want them to like themselves. So I love what you're saying.
Well, as speakers, if we get on stage and we make it about ourselves, we've missed the point. We're not there to make friends. We're there to speak into the lives of people. And if one person in that room heard that message and it changes them, we've done our job. So if we start worrying about like, oh, what are people going to think if I do this, or if I post this, then we're missing the boat. Like that's the funniest thing, is that what people assume about us and then what are like our heart's desire and our attention or our calling are vastly different things. So I just can't be bothered by it.
I love it. I love it. All right. So what are you hopeful about the future, professionally, personally? What are you hopeful about? Shine some light into the lives of the listeners. Like, some people are feeling like, is there anything to be hopeful about? Tell us, Amber.
There's so much to be hopeful about. So much. Like, let's be real. The shutdown and everything was crazy. And and especially, gosh, in our industry, it destroyed it. But it also, again, opened up a path, opened up doors. And so I'm really hopeful and excited about what we're doing for our Velvet Machete leadership community. We're very poised to help women in business who might be too much, who might consider themselves too much, who are very powerful women who might not feel like they're allowed to even say that they're powerful because people are going to think, oh, well, who does she think she is? You know, like that's my woman. She doesn't need to be told to wash her face. Like, good for that book. And oh my gosh, what a wonderful message for the people who need that. That's just not my person. So when we're able to support that person, because girl, 2022 is not going to suddenly be some magical, like talk about Mary Kelly. You need to get her on here to talk about economics and hope, because she's like, yeah, supply is going to be even worse in 2022. We're going to have more problems in small business. And I think people are maybe moving less towards, I want a ton of professional development, teach me how to be a leader, and more about how do I lead myself? How do I take care of myself? We're talking about the mental, we're talking about the spiritual and the emotional side of things. And quite frankly, Annie, like, I'm kind of turning more life coachy than business coachy or executive coachy, because when we go down those paths, we're going back to the life coaching side of things anyways. So, and I love that, because all I want, Annie, like, God put me on this planet so that I can help people see their greatness and to go out and serve other people with that greatness. So if I get to do a whole bunch of that in the next year, oh, that's all the hope I need.
I love that. That's great hope. I think about that. My title is H3, health, hope, and health, hope, and happiness in the workplace. But ultimately, what I say to people is it all starts with us, right? Like, and some people say, oh, we don't need those soft skills. But I recently was talking to a man, and he said, our company recognized those are not soft skills. Those are vital skills. And if people don't take care of themselves, they cannot survive and contribute in the workplace.
And we got a crash course on that through COVID.
Yeah. So I'm just going to ask you, do you have any last minute stories on hope or anything that you think of? I love that story. Sadly on cancer, but so powerful about the power of hope. Do you have any stories about hope personally or professionally you want to share?
Well, I just want to, I talked about being a really super young mom and the struggle of that. And it was a whole thing. You can read all about it in my book, The Bombshell Businesswoman. But I think the important thing is that it's not like you have a goal and then this one day, all of that hope is going to, like, on the 30th of October, I'm going to now be hope, like everything's going to change for me. Truly, I just maintained the hope. And then one day it was just okay. Like, there was no finish line. There was no anything. It was just like, wow, okay, I finally got some of that stuff paid off, or I got that bill out of the way, or now I can pay all my bills every week, or I finally got a job that had insurance. And so that wasn't a big burden. Like, just all the small choices, all the don't give upness along the way. Just kind of one day I woke up and I was like, wait, I'm not in crisis anymore. Like, this is kind of smooth. And then we just went from there. But now, you and I are crazy people, and we are always elevating. We're like, no, that's not enough. Let's go conquer the world.
What else can we do? I love that. I think on hope, I always think, look back to look forward.
That's right.
And there were so many years that I was just surviving. I just got to survive this. If I can get through one more day, if I can pay one more bill. And now to get to live. And even though it's busy, like people say, you're so busy to me. And I say, I'm not busy, I'm full. And the difference is my plate is fulfilled. My work is very meaningful.
I don't have to, I get to
meet amazing people, right? Like, we get to do what we were called to do. And exactly, it's not about us. It's about the lives we get to impact with our message and with our encouraging people to step into who you are. Don't step down. Don't apologize for being powerful and strong. Instead, step into it and be strong. So Amber, what I'm going to ask is, how can we get a hold of you? If we want to know more about Amber, where do we find you?
You can just go to amberhurdle.com. It's like amber waves of grain, and hurdle like you jump over a hurdle in a race. And all of my social media is there. I'm pretty much Amber Hurdle on all social media except Instagram, unless you want to, like, see what I had for lunch. That's my personal, but The Velvet Machete is me on Instagram. So, and I'm very interactive all the time. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being with me, Amber. And keep thinking about hope, health, and happiness. Take care of yourself. We care about you. We want what's best for you. I'm going to ask Amber, once we post this, to put her links to some of her social media and her website so you can reach out and learn more about her. But thanks so much for tuning in and being with us today. We'll see you next week for H3. Take care. Thanks, Amber.